There's a lot to like about video game tricks, hacks, and cheats. They can help you gear up for tough fights, breeze through them in no time, or bypass them entirely. Some can even change the way the game is played, opening up new options for having fun and extending the life of the game. Best of all, the stakes are low, so you don't have to feel guilty about taking a shortcut. Here are 10 essential hacks every gamer should know. Tank Up, Grand Theft Auto series. Pretty much every 3D Grand Theft Auto game has featured a tank, usually named the Rhino, and a sneaky way to acquire one for personal use by entering a crazy combo of button presses. The specific code varies from console to console and game to game, but when you're stuck on a tough mission or just tired of running from the police, the Rhino code is a great way to make a violent statement about your frustration, and the resultant mayhem is always worth the trouble of finding and entering it. Though not indestructible, the Rhino is pretty darn durable and can take out an enormous number of enemies with ease. It's the very definition of a great video game cheat. Quick, powerful, unfair, and hilariously fun. Beat the tar out of Psycho Mantis, Metal Gear Solid. Psycho Mantis is one of the most fearsome enemies in Konami's PlayStation classic, Metal Gear Solid. Wade straight into the fight, and Snake is in for quite a ride. However, if you've reached out to Colonel Campbell enough times over the course of the game, he'll figure out the source of Mantis' power. He's reading your controller input. Armed with this fourth wall breaking knowledge, players can then simply plug the controller into port 2, and Psycho Mantis, deprived of his unfair advantage, becomes a complete pushover. It's one of the most physical boss fight hacks in video game history. Make It Bloody, Mortal Kombat Sega Genesis version. When Mortal Kombat made the leap from arcade to home consoles, both the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo versions of the game drastically reduced its score factor by hiding all the blood. However, as determined gamers soon discovered, the developers sneakily included a secret code to turn the fountains of blood back on. Sadly for Super Nintendo fans, the code is for the Genesis only, but knowing how to restore the brutality to this famously brutal game made any kid with the secret the coolest kid on the playground back in the day. So what's the code? It's simple enough. On the Code of Honor code entry screen, enter A, B, A, C, A, B, and B. Top secret area, Super Mario World. One of those cheats we could always feel good about using. This beloved SNES secret didn't make trick jumps and low altitude flying easier, it just gave us the resources to keep trying until we got it right without having to start over from the last save point. Another classic Mario exercise in thinking outside the box of the game world, this hidden bonus level can be accessed by entering the donut ghost house with a cape, and then running and flying back toward the beginning of the stage. This reveals a hole in the ceiling and a fairly simple stroll over to a secret exit. Upon leaving the ghost house via this exit, a new level called Top Secret Area appears just to the north of it on the zone map. The level is one screen wide and contains a Yoshi, 2 fire flowers, and 2 feathers. Best of all, visiting doesn't count as a turn, so even in a 2-player game, each player can repeat it as many times as needed to stock up on extra lives and get ready for the next challenge. Stealth While You Sleep, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. The spiritual successor to Final Fantasy VI's infamous River exploit, this trick turns a piece of tape and a little planning into a maxed out stealth score in about a day. No attention needed. All the game requires to train stealth is that player's character is crouching while moving out of sight of one or more NPCs. Finding a properly angled rock or tree and setting the Dragonborn up so he or she is constantly crouch walking into it with an enemy off in the distance will do the trick. By taping the controller so that the character keeps doing this for the whole day, even the least stealthy Dovahkiin can become a master of the rogue's art. Of course, he'll look pretty silly in the meantime, but nobody ever said the life of a hero was easy. Invisibond, Goldeneye 007. Goldeneye for the Nintendo 64 turned out to be a surprise hit thanks to its fun, multiplayer split-screen mode. The developers even included a few codes that could be entered to spice up gameplay, including the notorious invisibility code, activated by inputting a complex series of combined button and C-pad presses. It's easy to hose your friends with this trick, but if you've mastered it, it's not going to win you any new ones. Nevertheless, the possibility of a perfect stealth ambush or an ammo-wasting ghost match with all invisible players makes this one a truly essential cheat for any fan of split-screen multiplayer gaming. Best debug mode ever, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Many video games have a debug mode, a place for the game's developers to fool around with everything to make sure nothing would crash or freeze the finished product once consumers started playing it. Some developers choose to leave access to their debugs somewhere in the games they release, but Sonic 2 was the first big console game to do this, and what a debug mode it was. By going to the sound test screen and listening to tracks 19, 65, 9, and 17, returning to the title screen, pushing A and start simultaneously, and then playing tracks 1, 9, 9, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 4, players can unlock a very robust debug mode that allows players to change just about everything. We don't know how people actually figured out such an esoteric code, but we are sure glad they did. The Konami Code, Various. Konami gave us Contra, Gradius, and many other timeless gaming gems, and the Konami Code gave us the extra power to actually beat those masterpieces. It's the Big Mac of video game cheat codes, and even people who've never used it can often rattle it off from memory. Up, up, down, down, left, right, B and A. The code is usually entered on the title screen before the game starts, and typically grants extra lives, better weapons, and other perks that don't change the gameplay, but do make it easier to avoid getting a game over. This code is so famous that some non-Konami games and even a few websites have used it over the years. There's no greater distinction for a secret code than to become possibly the least secret code of all time. The CAO Level, Diablo 2. This is the one. The secret so legendary that it actually started as an urban legend before developers Blizzard decided to get silly and make it a reality. So, what's the CAO level? A level full of cows, of course, right for slaughtering in the name of loot and blowing off steam. There is no CAO level in the original Diablo, as Blizzard never gets tired of reminding its players in practically every other game they've ever developed. However, there is one in Diablo 2. The CAO level is hard to find. It requires beating the game at least once, and then transmuting a Tome of Town portal with Wart's Leg and the Hieratic Cube in the Rogue encampment during Act 1 to open a secret portal. But the wealth of unique equipment that players can reap from it makes it well worth the effort. Oh, and one last tip, if you kill the leader of the cows, you won't be able to go back to the CAO level, so be careful. Welcome to Warp Zone, Super Mario Brothers. The Konami Code is a big deal, but no in-game trick is more famous than this one, which lets players quickly access later worlds in the NES classic, Super Mario Bros. 43 people left on Earth who don't know about it yet, get Mario to World 1-2. Then, find some way to get up on top of the roof of the level. There are a few different ways to do this, and run as far right as you can. A room with 3 pipes appears with the phrase "Welcome to Warp Zone" above them. The pipes jump Mario ahead to Worlds 2, 3, or 4. A later set of hidden pipes in level 4-2 transport him to worlds 5, 6, or 7. The way this cheat opened our minds to the possibilities of hidden secrets in games by placing the first set of warp pipes so that the players had to run across the top of the game screen, breaking the illusion of the game world, is what make it possibly the all-time greatest and most imitated video game secret ever. Those are our picks for the most essential gaming hacks ever. What are your favorite video game cheats, tricks, secrets, and Easter eggs? Have a hack you think should have made the list? Leave a comment and let us know. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to CBR for more high-powered videos about games, superheroes, and much more.